Today it's also Read Across America Day. Here's some of the stories we're following for you.
Did you ever do that, by the way, Read Across America Day?
Of course I did.
That was a big thing in local news. You'd go to a classroom, read to the kids.
I actually really enjoyed it.
A lot of fun.
I got to find a place to do it here.
There's a Wocket in my pocket. That was my go-to Dr. Seuss book, which is a real book, yes.
Good choice. All right, some of the other stories that we're following in addition to Read Across America Day is after the White House poses no sanctions on Saudi Arabia, the Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman now facing crimes against humanity in the killing of Jamal Khashoggi. We're going to have the very latest on that. Plus, a third woman coming forward accusing New York Governor Andrew Cuomo of sexual harassment. Support for his resignation is growing in Albany and Washington. And as Rob was mentioning, keep in mind, though, no more green eggs and ham. Calls for Dr. Seuss to be canceled are growing on this Read Across America Day as President Biden omits the author from his speech. And the holiday is usually focused around Dr. Seuss' birthday, focused in schools. Schools will have that, Rob, Dr. Seuss week where they dress up as characters, they read the books, they do the whole thing. Maybe not anymore. Yeah,
my kids are doing it. They turn the scrambled eggs into green eggs. And it's, I mean, Cindy Lou Who from The Grinch. There was nothing racist about Cindy Lou Who. She's a who, right?
We're going to talk. We have a guest coming on to break it down for us because there's a lot of confusion. People, of course, have a lot of positive memories thinking about the books. Maybe the places you'll go when you graduate high school or college and things like that. So
Pop on Pop. That's me. I'm a pop now. So
you are.
My kids like that one. No, the kids learn about, honestly, rhyming. Your point, phonics, things like that that are so key to growing minds. I'm sad to see this, but every week it's something new when it comes to cancel culture from the left. So I'm glad that we have somebody on to talk about that, Rachel. Thank you.
We're going to break down the reasoning.
Yeah. All right. I want to welcome in our powerhouse panel this morning. We start with our White House correspondent, Emerald Robinson, former Nevada State GOP chairwoman, Amy Tarkanian, former Trump senior advisor, Steve Cortez, and former Trump campaign aide, Rick Gates, with us. Good morning to all. Thanks for being with us. Excited. We've got a lot to talk about. Andrew Cuomo, and I could see Emerald. She literally, I don't know how this happens. I woke up this morning, and there is now a third person accusing Andrew Cuomo of harassment, inappropriate harassment. Bill de Blasio, by the way, perhaps the worst mayor in America, is also piling on, which is like, it takes me deeper into this wormhole of not understanding what's going on right now. It's just so weird to see this. But here is Bill de Blasio yesterday talking about the governor of New York. Take a listen.
We need to make sure it never happens again. And we need to look at the nursing home issue. We cannot just look at one or the other. We need a full investigation of the nursing home issue where thousands of people died. Information was covered up on purpose. And we still don't know if our seniors are safe going forward. Our elders, we don't know if they're safe because we have not got a full accounting of the facts. So both these issues need to be looked into independently, thoroughly. And we need to know what has to change as a result.
All right, let's start with the sexual harassment. Emerald, here are some of the questions that Bill de Blasio, check that, Andrew Cuomo has posed to these three young women. Can I kiss you? Have you ever played strip poker? Do you sleep with older men? How old are men that you typically date? And it's funny, when you hear them like that, doesn't it just remind you of like some creepy old man that would say something like that?
I mean, that pretty much sums it up.
Right? That's it.
Well, look, I don't think this will be the last woman to come forward. Clearly, this was repeat behavior by Andrew Cuomo, and now that the dam's broken, these women are going to feel comfortable. But as far as Bill de Blasio, we know exactly what's going on here. There's no secret that there was no love lost between the two, and this is an opportunity to shift the dynamic. Cuomo was more popular than de Blasio, and there's this, rivalry between them, and this is an opportunity for de Blasio to potentially put the nail in the coffin of someone he doesn't like.
Rick, should Andrew Cuomo resign? Is that ultimately what's going to happen here? He's going to step down, be forced to step down?
He absolutely should. And I think when you look at what he's doing, he's putting his interests and protecting himself before the people of New York. And I think this is where it really breaks down for him. And if you look across the board, sexual harassment is not a political issue, should not be politicized. But the Dems set the double standard here, and Cuomo contributed this to greatly. When you had Kavanaugh, you had Joe Biden and Tara Reade. I mean, all these issues, escalated this to an environment that we're in right now. And Cuomo is not able to represent the people of New York and not able to do anything for the people of New York. So just on the allegations themselves, and obviously investigation, we'll find out, what the facts are. But at the end of the day, he needs to step aside to help the people of New York, not think about himself. And that's exactly what he's doing right now.
Amy, just so we're all on the same page here, a third woman came forward on Monday to accuse the governor of inappropriate sexual behavior, saying he grabbed and kissed her at a 2019 wedding. Her name's Anna Roush. She's 33 years old, so that adds her name to the list of Lindsay Boylan and Charlotte Bennett. Do you agree with Emerald? Do you think more women are going to start coming forward? Are the floodgates just wide open now?
I do, because obviously this is a pattern that's been going on for quite some time. Not only the bullying and the lying and the belittling of staff and also members of the legislature, but the fact that he has been getting away with this type of behavior with the women in his office is atrocious. If you see the photograph that this third woman has posted of his hands on her, she looks incredibly uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And then the fact that he also said in his phony apology letter that, he's a
We're
funny
showing that
guy.
photo, by the way,
There's
if you're listening at
nothing funny
home.
about this. The fact that he thinks that this was flirting. This is not flirting. This is disgusting behavior. Flirting would be more of something, along the lines of complimenting maybe a dress or your hair or, not talking about strip poker.
Yeah.
And then also on top of it, when you had Press Secretary Jen Psaki actually say that, we need to look into this and, maybe words could be taken out of context. I mean, that's not word verbatim, but, how can that be taken out of context? What are we supposed to do? Find out, did he also ask to play Spin the Bottle, 7 Minutes in Heaven? I mean, it's pretty clear.
It's true.
Crystal clear.
Yeah, his big thing is sorry if my comments.
Over the line.
Yeah, he says sorry if my comments are misinterpreted. I mean to be playful. Look, these women. Charlotte Bennett's 25 years old. If you're in an office like she claims she was, alone with the governor in New York, very very powerful guy. This guy, might have been the attorney general. He was somebody that was
That's intimidating.
That intimidating. How else are you supposed to interpret that when somebody says, do you date older men? There's only one way to interpret that. It's not playful, and it's not good. Chris Cuomo over on CNN, Steve, he finally decided to talk about this because the network is now, the New York Times has turned, Democratic Congresswoman Kathleen Rice from Long Island is now calling for Andrew Cuomo to resign. So, Chris, the pressure is on, and he finally acknowledged this in his broadcast last night. Take a look.
Obviously, I'm aware of what's going on with my brother. And obviously, I cannot cover it because he is my brother. Now, of course, CNN has to cover it. They have covered it extensively, and they will continue to do so. I have always cared very deeply about these issues, and profoundly so. I just wanted to tell you that. There's a lot of news going on that matters also, so let's get after that.
Steve, what a weird ending. It's like, and now it's on to Chicago, and let's win there, too. I don't know what he was saying at the end there.
No, and by the way, this is important, I think, to hold not just Chris Cuomo accountable, him most of all, perhaps, but the corporate media in general.
Oh, we'll check on Steve's audio. Emerald, same question to you. Bizarre the way he ended that, almost like now he's going to cover, the COVID relief bill or CPAC or something like that.
Well, Chris Cuomo is not known for his tact or his eloquence with words, so it's not necessarily surprising. Think about how he and his brother joked during the pandemic, and then how Chris Cuomo supposedly was quarantining in his basement with COVID, but he's actually going out without a mask.
Yeah, he was looking at houses on Long Island.
Yeah, appropriate for Chris Cuomo, I would say.
Rick, he was single, ready to mingle, too, this summer. You remember that. Rick, I've got a question for you because you guys are coming back right after the break. But John Bolton, so there was a straw poll. They do this at every single CPAC, by the way. There's a straw poll taken about who the next nominee is going to be, leader of the party, that sort of thing. Not surprisingly, Donald Trump, the overwhelming favorite. Ron DeSantis, Kristi Noem were behind him in that poll. John Bolton, who is not exceptionally relevant anymore, I don't know if he ever was, but John Bolton apparently doesn't think much of President Trump coming out on top of that poll. Your thoughts?
Yeah, first, I agree. I think John Bolton should not be reading the tea leaves in the polls. And certainly with the CPAC poll, we all know it's not a scientific poll. I thought the president's approval rating and support of 55% given all the other people involved, was absolutely, very high. And I think when you put that in the context of really the greater support that he has within the base of the party, that, Bolton is absolutely wrong that Donald Trump is fading, and he should be the first to know that. John Bolton is a creature of D.C. He doesn't understand the average American, what they go through, the economic hardships they have. He has been locked in the D.C. box, and he marches, kind of to his own beat. And look, I think it's important that people understand, because they don't get to see this a lot. John Bolton was not Donald Trump's first choice for National Security Advisor.
Yeah.
He wasn't his second choice. In fact, he wasn't his third choice, although he ended up getting it in the end. But there was a point in time in the campaign in 2016 where we had put Donald Trump and John Bolton together, and it didn't go well. And that's largely, I think, because Donald Trump knew that John Bolton was a creature of D.C. He didn't like him, didn't trust him. And I think those instincts are absolutely dead on. And this is just, I think, Bolton trying to, go after him. But there's no absolute accuracy with what Bolton said.
Well, yeah, and he's trying to reinsert himself into the conversation because he's now faded off into oblivion. He's just become completely irrelevant. We could pick this back up after the break, guys. I know you're coming right back, but I do have some questions about that CPAC straw poll and the history of those straw polls. Turns out they've been very accurate in the past at CPAC. We'll get into that in just a few moments. Stay with us.
Meeting with members of the Senate virtually today. There, I've released it for you. What else would you like to know?
Names?
Oh, I think we did release the names. If we haven't, we certainly have every intention of doing that this afternoon.
All right, I want to welcome back in our powerhouse panel this morning. We've got White House correspondent Emerald Robinson with us, former Nevada State GOP chairwoman Amy Tarkanian, former Trump senior advisor Steve Cortez, hopefully going to be joining us in just a little bit, but former Trump campaign aide Rick Gates is back with us. Rick, first question is to you. We didn't get to talk CPAC yesterday, so I'm excited to have you on this morning. By the way, I was looking at a straw poll from way back in 2011, just before Mitt Romney was the candidate, of course, in 2012. At CPAC in 2011, Ron Paul won the poll, and then Mitt Romney came in. He was back in the middle of the pack, and then a year later he was the nominee. So those polls aren't always right. What do you make of Ron DeSantis and Kristi Noem in particular coming in second and third respectively in that CPAC poll?
I thought those polls were very interesting for a number of reasons. Kristi Noem and Ron DeSantis, and there are a few others that are up and coming, and they had a great performance at CPAC, and I think they've really tapped into the America First agenda that Donald Trump has started. And so they're being seen as supporters of that agenda. And I think they're going to do very well. Ron DeSantis at 27%, pretty significant number. Granted, the poll was in Florida, but he was the hometown favorite. But I think in the end, it shows that there is a new breed of Republicans coming up through the party that are going to be serious contenders as we move forward in 2024 and beyond. And I think what was interesting is the people that were not there. Obviously, Mike Pence, Nikki Haley, who polled very low in those numbers. And I think what you're going to see is a continuation of kind of this America First, agenda, develop. And so I think as we look at 2022, you're going to see a cadre of candidates, and you're already seeing it. It's quiet, but it's assertive. There are several former Trump aides that are running for seats in Congress. Max Miller in Ohio, Katrina Pearson in Texas. Matt Mowers ran in 2020 in New Hampshire. So you're going to continue to see, I think, this progression of these types of candidates. But that polling, obviously, not very scientific, but,
no, it's definitely not scientific. It's a litmus test,
though. I think it's been a message to the RNC, because if you'd asked the RNC before that, who was their wish list for 2024, it was hands down Pence Haley, although that's not where the voters are. And again, it just reiterates to the RNC and the GOP, that's not where their voters are. And also, you have to ask the question, though, does Kristi Noem has suggested she wants to run for another term of governor in, her state. So she seems to want to be doing that in 2022. The question is, does Ron DeSantis want to run?
He's young. He's got time. So if he doesn't have to now, Ron DeSantis. He's so darn young.
He's got time. And the big question is, does former President Trump want to run?
Right.
And that's what we don't have a clear indication of. I mean, he hinted at it. He played coy on Sunday. But from everything I'm hearing, he hasn't really made up his mind. So
it would not surprise me if he was the next Grover Cleveland. And Donald Trump, I've heard yesterday, people were saying on some of the other networks that Donald Trump, well, this would be 2024, his last election. He'd be a little bit older than Joe Biden is now, 78 years old. Do not, if you've learned anything about Donald Trump, do not count him out because that soundbite will be preserved forever. I wouldn't, hey, 2028, don't count Donald Trump out. I wouldn't count him out at all. And I think Ron DeSantis is like 42, so he literally has, a generation and a half to get serious. Quick question, and then I want to move on. But Amy, you're from the state of Nevada, so important. Democrats took that state. It was tight margins in 2020. But President Trump, he didn't close the door for 2024. And he made it seem like if he doesn't run and become the king again, he wants to play kingmaker, especially in these midterm elections. Do you expect to see him really active in 2022?
Well, that's what he's claiming he's going to do. And we also have the NRSC chair, Rick Scott, saying that, he's already met and with Trump, and that Trump has promised to assist him in the future elections. He's also said, though, that he's going to continue to support the incumbents, which I know a lot of the base are questioning, why. We had former President Trump list the people by name at CPAC who he was not happy with. And I know that his base agrees with him in that. So it's going to be interesting to see who he puts up against those individuals, as well as who they're going to put up against the Democrats. And the fact that our state has actually turned blue, we're no longer purple, in my opinion, is going to be very crucial, since we are a swing state, to put up strong Republicans in our federal races.
Yeah, I think you've turned blue, and I think definitively Florida's turned red, by the way.
Yes.
Go ahead.
He was talked out of an endorsement over the last 24 hours in Ohio of Jane Timken.
Oh, that's
Ronna
interesting.
McDaniel had almost kind of talked into that. And then what had gotten lost in the mix is that Timken had suggested that she thought it was reasonable to do impeachment. So she sort of endorsed impeachment, and that was brought to the former president's attention. And so that's what he does have to be careful of, though, is getting the wrong guidance on who exactly to put his endorsement behind, because his base wants to see the people who are aligned with him and his America First vision. Now, in saying that, there's going to be an announcement in Ohio this week of another senatorial candidate who I think probably aligns very strongly with that vision and will probably end up getting the president's endorsement.
Yeah, the president's already getting started on this. I don't think that was a false promise at CPAC Sunday night. I want to play you guys a soundbite, something that's developed over the last couple of days. This is Ted Cruz. It dates back to 2013, but I think as soon as you hear it, you'll know where I'm going. Take a listen.
Do you like green eggs and ham? I do not like them, Sam I am. I do not like green eggs and ham. Would you like them here or there? I would not like them here or there. I would not like them anywhere. I do not like green eggs and ham. I do not like them, Sam I am.
All right, so that is a much younger Ted Cruz, 2013. He's filibustering a bill on the floor of the Senate there. They want to cancel. They want to cancel Dr. Seuss. Today's Read Across America Day. It's been celebrated in schools in America for more than 20 years. Loudoun County Public Schools put out a statement that says research has revealed strong racial undertones in certain Dr. Seuss books. And this is one of those. Every week it's something new that we're going to cancel. I grabbed this off my 4-year-old's bedside table. It's Mr. Brown Can Moo, Can You? There's a Walk It in My Pocket. That was one of my favorites. Listen, you don't have to have kids to relate to Dr. Seuss. You were a kid at one point, and these books were a part of all of our childhoods. Doesn't matter where you live, what you did. Emerald, I'll let you take a stab at it, then we'll go right around the table.
It just makes me so sad and frustrated. I read, Rachel was talking about, the places you will go and how that's sort of a graduation staple. And in my commencement address at my college graduation, I did use some quotes from, the places you will go. And I also have a 4-year-old, and he is in a rhyming phase right now. I mean, everything's a rhyme. He just walks around rhyming nonstop. So he loves Dr. Seuss, and it's a great way for them to learn and make associations and start creating those connections in their brain with the rhyming. And it's just unfortunate. Yeah, it's getting to the point that you can't have anything.
About 25 seconds, Rick, Amy. Let's. I want to get you both in here. Rick, your thoughts?
Sure. I went back and I saw Obama's proclamations in 2015 and 2016 and how he praised Dr. Seuss for being able to instill values, human values in his books and in teachings. And I think it's important also to understand that, remember, Dr. Seuss, he was liberal. He supported FDR, spoke out against fascism. So it's kind of interesting that this cancel culture now seems to be Democrats turning on Democrats. And I think they've gone too far on this one. And I think people are going to react accordingly.
Amy, final thought?
Sure. Well, my fifth grader is very excited for the events that are going to unfold today in his class. And he's actually going to wear a Dr. Seuss hat in his honor. And I'm very excited for him. This cancel culture has gone way too far. This woke academia is only going to embolden the Republicans. And I think it's going to help us as long as this continues. And it's only going to help Republicans in the next election.
It certainly is. It's something new every week. It was the Muppets last week. Panel, we got to leave it there. Thank you so much. Great conversation as always. We'll see you again at the top of the hour.
I'm Rachel Roller. It's time now for the question of the day. What took over New York City in the 1930s? Well, the mighty monarch of all melodramas, or at least that's how they dubbed King Kong, and that wasn't hyperbole. King Kong opening at the 6,200-seat Radio City Music Hall in New York City and the 3,700-seat RKO Roxy across the street on March 2nd, 1933. The film was preceded by a stage show called Jungle Rhythms and crowds lining up around the block on opening day for tickets priced around 55 cents, which would be approximately $11 in today's currency. So either way, quite the bargain. People went ape for it. It's the first 4 days. In its first 4 days, every one of its 10 shows a day sold out, setting an all-time attendance record for an indoor event.
I mean, can you imagine this? 1933. I mean, TV was just, we were using dictaphones not long before this, and all of a sudden this movie comes out. By the way, if you haven't seen the original, it does stand the test of time. I think all the iterations, the one in the 70s, the remake, I think they all kind of stand the test of time.
I was watching the original on YouTube this morning.
Like that 33 one?
Ready,
It's good. All of a sudden you're like, how did they get that gorilla to look so
How
realistic?
did they get, I know at that time, at 55 cents to watch it, I thought that was cool too.
A deal, but yeah, it's pretty neat. Thanks, Rachel. Let's do Woke Up America this morning, shall we? What happened at the U.S. Capitol on January 6th was absolutely terrible, a tragedy that most of us really never thought could happen. But the more I think about this, the more I get hung up with everyone calling the Capitol, the building itself, the beating heart of American democracy. Now, the Capitol, of course, is a very historic building. It's one of the most important special buildings in America. But like every other building in our country, it's still made of concrete, plaster, and wood. Now, again, I'm not condoning what happened or saying it's good. It was not. It was terrible. I think the beating heart of American democracy, though, is when someone gets on their knees and prays at a place of worship of their choosing. The beating heart of American democracy is when someone becomes the first person in their family to go off to college, or when someone becomes a citizen legally. The beating heart of American democracy is also when someone opens up a small business. They save up and they open a business far, far away from Washington. To them, that small business is absolutely everything. It means the world. It's everything great about the American dream. But Democrats didn't seem to care about those people or those part of our democracy when thousands of businesses were burned, looted, and vandalized for a 6-month period throughout the summer. Take a look at your screens. That part of our democracy did not matter. It did not affect lawmakers directly. They just didn't care. You could say the White House is also the beating heart of American democracy, right? That would make sense. Guess what? The White House was actually burned to the ground by the British during the War of 1812. And you know what happened after that? Absolutely nothing. Our beating hearts continued on. We rebuilt the White House using concrete, plaster, and wood, and that's what makes America great. The American spirit, not the buildings we occupy.
Andrew Cuomo stays under fire as a third woman is now coming forward to the New York Times accusing the governor of an unwanted advance at a wedding. So joining us now to talk about it is U.S. Representative for New York's 22nd Congressional District, Claudia Tenney. Congresswoman, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Good morning.
Now, Anna Roish is the third accuser to come forward. We're taking a look at the picture that's circulating on social media right now after she said the governor placed his hands on her cheeks and asked if he could kiss her. Now, this photo, obviously uncomfortable. You see the young woman making a very awkward face. Now, there's lots of statements that the governor has been releasing throughout this week. Here's some of those. What do you make of this?
Well, I think it's, again, it looks like inappropriate behavior. The governor is entitled to due process. I know a lot of people don't want to hear that, but there are a number of these accusations, and they need to be proven. But I think this is overshadowing, which is what concerns me, is the corruption and the abuse of power that has been really the signature part of Governor Cuomo's reign over New York over the last 11 years, kind of ending with the nursing home scandal. And this is really like the straw that broke the camel's back. It looks like very inappropriate behavior. Obviously, we need to look into it. Unlike what the Democrats are claiming, these women's voices do need to be heard. And finally, Representative Kathleen Rice, who was a district attorney who also serves in Congress with me, finally called for Governor Cuomo's resignation, which she joined the chorus of so many of us who've been calling for his resignation, not only this year, but I've been calling for the governor's resignation for years because of the way that he operates New York State. And as I say, it's an abuse of power. Only Governor Cuomo could have created what they call a public corruption commission, known as the Moreland Commission. It was created to investigate corruption in the executive branch. But Governor Cuomo, while I was a member of the Assembly, used this Moreland Commission to weaponize it against legislators who disagreed with his viewpoints and forced people to vote the way he wanted them to vote, which was inappropriate. It was an abuse of power. And then when this corruption commission, by the way, Kathleen Rice at the time, who was not a member of Congress, was part of this commission. But when that commission got too close and the breadcrumbs led to Governor Cuomo, he immediately shut down the commission. And that was the end of investigating corruption. But he has left a sea of his closest advisors who have gone to jail for corruption. So this is just a tail end of what has been going on for many years. The Albany Press Corps has not held Governor Cuomo accountable until now. I am so pleased to see so many of our Democratic colleagues, including Assemblyman Ron Kim, coming out and forcing the government to either face impeachment or resignation. I think he should just resign and save the New York taxpayers, the millions here in New York who've been suffering under his reign for so long.
You know, at the beginning of that, you started with the fact that he deserves due process. Of course he does. And some, I think, are looking for ways to get him out after all the other issues the embattled governor is facing, as you mentioned, the nursing home scandal, the handling of the COVID crisis, and just the way he's governed New York in general. Now, I think when it comes to these sexual harassment claims, what people are finding confusing, women specifically, I was talking to some New Yorkers yesterday trying to gather a bit of a story on their reaction to the governor and to this news. It seems that they're frustrated. He was so supportive of the Me Too movement and so adamant, if you remember in 2018, that Brett Kavanaugh take a lie detector test. He was quoted saying, if he does not take a polygraph test, it's the ultimate he said, she said. So when it comes down to the situation he's now in, the same movement he was so active in promoting, now kind of catching his own fire involved in that movement, we know that his team is scrambling to come to his defense. His tune has changed drastically from last week where he brushed it off to now him accusing and excusing it more as playful, insensitive, too personal, all things that were released in his statement. How do you expect him to react to this now third allegation? Many people are saying they don't expect him to resign. He's not the type of man who's going to do that.
Well, you know, as I put out on Twitter, Harvey Weinstein thought he was being playful, I'm sure, you know, at this point. And it remains to be seen. But I think the governor, at this point, he is under such siege for so many things. This is just too much. I don't think he can govern in this position, which is why he must resign immediately. But, you know, look, I would love to see the governor take a polygraph test. As lawyers know that polygraph tests are not admissible in court. But since he called for it, I'd love to see him take one, but he's such a sociopath. And I say that, you know, with care. I mean, I'm concerned. I hate to use such harsh language, but I've served under this governor as a member of the state assembly. And I'm also a citizen and a taxpayer of New York. And his abuse of power and the way that he operates, you know, he should subject himself to his own standards. So, yeah, I would love to see him submit to a polygraph test, but not sure that we get anywhere with that, by the way. But resignation right now, after all he's put New Yorkers through. Look, we have the largest out-migration of people in the entire nation because of the policies of Governor Cuomo. And you can blame the legislature, which now is Democrat one-party rule. But the governor has led the way on so many of these issues, and he's supposedly been the champion of women's rights. That's one of his signature issues. And look where he is today. I mean, it's the ultimate hypocrisy if he doesn't resign because he's not living up to the ideals that he has forced down the throats of many of us. out in New York State, or all of us, really.
The standards that he set for the past couple years. I want to bring up a tweet that you said, Congresswoman. You said Cuomo weaponized the Moreland Commission against his political opponents. Several of his close associates have been convicted of corruption. He hid nursing home deaths, and now he's facing multiple allegations of sexual harassment. The pattern is clear. Cuomo must resign. These are all things you touched on. Do you think, in essence, with this track record, should we have been calling for the governor's resignation long ago, before we even have gotten to these sexual harassment claims? We have about 30 seconds left.
Yeah, I reiterate I've been calling for the governor's resignation way back from 2014 for a number of issues, whether it's, the Oneida casino deal, which affected my region, which was a clear abuse of power and unconstitutional, and something the governor forced. God knows what he received in return for that. He's the king of pay to play in New York State. Look at his best friend, a guy named Percoco, who he called his third brother, is serving in jail for some of the scandals. Elaine Calleros, who is head of this big operation that had to deal with, microchips in our region, he's gone to jail. I mean, all these, how come everyone surrounding Governor Cuomo has gone to jail, but nothing has touched him? And I think that the truth is coming out. He should resign. I'm hoping, I can't urge enough Democrats to get on board. It's the right thing to do. And I just hope that that's how he does it and goes out with grace that way, instead of putting the rest of us through this torture of what's happening right now in New York State.
Well, we've certainly seen people in high positions of power who believed to be untouchable for so long falling over the past couple of years. So we do know there will be an independent investigation, the White House supporting that as well. So we'll have to wait and see what happens there. Congresswoman Claudia Tenney, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Well, there's plenty more here on Wake Up America. And as we let you go to this break, don't forget to download the Newsmax app. You can do what well over 5 million people have been doing. We're looking to add to that daunting number. You can take us anywhere you go, and you can always sign up for those app notifications so you never miss a breaking news headline from Newsmax. We'll be right back.
Hi, Emma Reckenberg here. If you like this video, there's a whole lot more to see on Newsmax TV. You can watch for free right here on our YouTube live stream and be the first one here each time our experts break down real news. Just hit that subscribe button, ring the bell icon, and stay with us on America's fastest growing cable news channel, Newsmax TV.